So inside of the head tent supply kit is going to be almost a little mini kit within a kit that is going to give you the neck ring, the sizing instructions so that you can size and cut it appropriately for the patient. It'll come with a little measuring tape, which is actually folded. It's a little bit larger than that. And you are going to have scissors in there as well. So you want to measure the patient's neck. And then on the sizing instructions, you're going to be able to see a range of sizes for each ring. So you'll figure out where the patient falls. I can tell you that from experience, most patients are going to be, the men typically are around this 16.5 to 18.25, and the women tend to be one more down on that number 5 line, the 14.75 to 16.5, or between the 5 and the 4, just as a quick reference. But obviously the most accurate thing to do would be to measure their neck and then trim slightly smaller than what you measured. So that way you can always take away, but obviously you can't put back. If you trim it too large and you don't get a good seal, then you're gonna have to completely scrap this and start over. So let's say that we have a gentleman who is going to be in this 6.5 to 18.25 line. They're going to be on row or line number 6. What I find easiest is just to stick my hand under it so I kind of see the whole cone shape. The lines are very faint, so the numbers are actually printed on here, but I can't see them. So I count the lines. So for this guy, we would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and he's going to be somewhere around that rib, okay? So once I see where I'm going, I just kind of keep an eye on that one, make a little snip, and that's where I get started. Then I turn it sideways and stretch it just a little, not too much, and you're trying to find that sweet spot on the scissors that when you make the cut, it's as smooth as possible versus sawtoothed and jagged. Okay, if it is sawtoothed and jagged, it's going to be more likely to tear when you're stretching it to put it on and off of the patient. There is a little break in the lines on the head on the neck ring, so I usually recount over here just to make sure I don't lose my place. So coming from the smallest down to the largest, we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I'm just going to continue my cut around there. And I'm trying not to do a whole lot of little tiny chops because again, that's gonna make it a little more likely to keep it jagged. So once you do this a few times, you start to get your rhythm and you sort of feel how the material feels and the best way to cut it. Unfortunately, if you mess it up, you just gotta get a new one and start over, but it's not the end of the world. And then again, there's another kind of break between the lines, so just to be sure, I'll come over here again and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's where I'm going. You may even, if we do this enough, get to the point where you can kind of just look at the person's neck and you're going to get close enough to make it work. So you can toss the piece you don't need. This is where the patient's neck's gonna go. It does stretch really big, and you'll see in the education how we talk about it's a 2-person job, because if I stretch here, you kind of need to have another pair of hands to make it as large as possible to get it comfortably over the patient's head. Something else that might help prevent tearing is if when you're going to stretch it really big, you fold this over just a little bit. I say fold over, or under, I guess would work. If you fold the cut edge under, then you're stretching from the fold and you're going to be a little less likely to pull it where you just cut the material. So a couple of little tricks to make sure you're preserving this and making it last as long as possible. It should be snug, like a turtleneck, but not too tight that obviously a person that can't breathe is having even more trouble breathing. If they start looking red, or you can really see a line cutting into their neck when you remove this, or you're doing a skin assessment, then that's probably too tight and they need to have a little more trimmed off. We can compensate for little leaks with the head tent ventilation setup, but if it's too much, then you're gonna know obviously you can't keep the head tent inflated. I think that's about it.